All right, how do we feel about a casual late night discussion starting with Patrick Surtain, the very good young Denver cornerback who I get it, people want to talk about it. The 49ers have a reputation, they're aggressive ahead of trade deadlines. They see a very bad Broncos team. They see a Broncos team that gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. The 49ers could use maybe a little extra oomph opposite Charvarius Ward to improve the rotational capabilities of the back end on their team. People say, Patrick Surtain, come on over. So we have to talk about it. We will talk about it. We'll talk about a whole other lot of stuff today. Get your questions ready for the Q&A. We'll call it a late night Lombardi unofficially, but I just want to discuss why I think the Patrick Surtain trade won't happen from a 49ers team building standpoint. We have to look at how the 49ers construct their roster, and we have to look at the strategies that they use in the process. And you guys know that I have the whole A-lister, B-lister process down to a checklist that I put up on my Twitter. The 49ers do not shy away from any expense when it comes to trying to grab an A-list player. So then you have to consider the question, is Patrick Surtain an A-list player? He's a really good cornerback. He's in his third season in the league. It's not just A-list player, though. It's will he have an A-list impact, and what will the cost of that A-list impact be for the 49ers? Well, the thing I view here is that I think that Denver probably views Patrick Surtain as untouchable. I think that he's good enough, and we saw this in Denver last year when the 49ers lost to the Broncos. He just stuck on Brandon Ayuk over the course of the game. I think he's good enough and he's in the contractual situation right now, still on that cheaper rookie deal. Somebody did trade for him this year, by the way. His cap hit for his new team would only be a fraction of $940,000, however many weeks there were left on the schedule. He's got a minimum base salary, $940,000. But when you look at this situation with Patrick Surtain, I think that Denver sees his value relative to his cost, sees the production, and even if they were to completely blow up this team, obviously things were really, really ugly for the Denver Broncos against the Miami Dolphins, and they haven't been good to start the season. Even if they were to blow up this team, you want Patrick Surtain around. At that production level with that contract, I think you deem him as untouchable. Now, untouchable doesn't mean literally so. Untouchable means you require a king's ransom. That's the same language that we heard surrounding Deebo Samuel when the 49ers were trying to work on a contract with him while he held out in 2022, right? The 49ers would require a king's ransom to part with Deebo Samuel. Well, I think the Denver Broncos would require a king's ransom to part with Patrick Surtain II. Every man has his price. I'm sure there's a price here. But the problem is, if this is at king's ransom territory, then you start talking about first-round picks. Then you start talking about the 49ers 2024 pick grouping. And they have a first rounder for the first time since 2021 because they traded away the first rounders for Trey Lance. This is the draft from a team building standpoint that the 49ers are looking at as the draft that's going to replenish them at premium positions, namely offensive tackle, with Trent Williams being 35 years old, with Colton McKivitz being a question mark. And also, even if he answers the question, Colton McKivitz is only under contract for this year and the next. So I think all logical signs point to the 49ers using a premium draft pick, a first-round draft pick, for an offensive tackle in this next 2024 draft. So if you're talking about king's ransom, though, for Patrick Surtain, then you're talking about chipping away your first-round draft pick, and then all of a sudden, that might derail your long-term plans of sustainability. Because let's be honest, we talk about A-list players, but we also need to talk about A-list impact, both in the short term and the long term. Where are the 49ers going to get more bang for their buck? At a second cornerback position or at offensive tackle? And I'm talking both short-term and long-term again. Offensive tackle is a premium position in football. Cornerback is too, but 49ers already have some good-looking players there. They've got Charvarius Ward there. They have Deommodore Lenoir surging there. You could use better players at any time, anywhere, but you have to factor it in within the short-term and long-term cost. And I think even if Patrick Surtain was somehow available, it would be at a king's ransom, and that would compromise the 49ers' longer term plans, assuming a king's ransom means first round pick. So, the key is rooted in this. Denver likely views this guy as untouchable. So these rumors are fun. I know I don't talk about them all too much, but people wanted me to comment on this. I got a lot of questions about it on social media. And I think that we just need to look at this as in the big picture. We need to look at this in terms of the 49ers team building process. And I just don't see Patrick Surtain being available for a low enough cost in terms of draft capital for the 49ers to be able to justify something like this. Now, from a financial standpoint, it'd be cheap. He's on a rookie contract. That's all great. That's another part of the reason of why his draft cost would be so astronomically high. All right, let's move it to a Q&A. I traveled today. I'm getting ready for 49ers practice tomorrow. I got my screen open right now. Jersey's lit up behind me, and I'm willing to talk. Let's go. Jason Verrett, anyone? He worked out for the 49ers, I think it was last week, right? No signing appears to be imminent, but Jason Verrett, this could be an ongoing story. They could work him out again in 2 or 3 weeks. He's recovering from a serious injury. He's had many of those in his career. So he might still be picking up speed, and the 49ers wanted to check in on him. He wanted to check in with the 49ers. So don't close the book on Jason Verrett. I know I had been asked about him so many times over the course of this past offseason. And I said, I don't know. We haven't heard from Jason Verrett. He hasn't surfaced. Well, he finally did surface in that workout with the 49ers. The 49ers have 2 good safeties. I think they probably need a second good safety for the long term, which is why they drafted Jair Brown to pair with Talanoa Hufanga. But Tashawn Gibson is a damn good football player. Tashawn Gibson ranked in the top 2 in both passer rating allowed and in missed tackle percentage last year. So he did everything you needed him to do. Plus, he's a great veteran presence. Just because he's on the older side of 30, right? He's 33 years old. He's going to be 33 this year. Doesn't mean that Tashawn Gibson's a bad safety. They've got an all-pro in Talanoa Hufanga, and they got a player who has made a huge name for himself in this league in Tashawn Gibson, 32 career interceptions. The update on Darrell Luter Jr. is that he's not eligible to come off of the injury list that he's on, which is NFI, until after this next game. So at this time next year, we might be talking about a Darrell Luter Jr. activation. But at this time next week, not next year, next week, we might be talking about a Darrell Luter Jr. activation. Surtain is on a rookie contract, but that is not the only cost. The cost would be the draft capital, and Denver would probably demand a lot of it since Surtain is on that rookie deal. Will the 49ers win this Sunday? I don't know. You're going to have to watch the Will the 49ers beat the Cardinals video, which comes out on Friday, to find out. Yes, the 49ers do have to win the Super Bowl for me to reveal the backside of that number 17 jersey. We'll see if Debo's back on Wednesday. He wasn't practicing on Monday. So we'll see tomorrow. How does the NFC West look 3 games in? All right, well, let's go through this. The Seattle Seahawks have looked better the past 2 weeks. They've gotten a couple wins after losing to the Rams, but that was a very unremarkable week 1 loss to the Rams. The Rams look limited offensively, and the Arizona Cardinals look better than we expected. How wild would it be if Arizona was the second best team in the NFC West? I think it's still on the table. I'm not sure if it's likely, but I think it's still on the table. They definitely run the ball with more vigor than Seattle or LA. I think the Rams are just limited offensively, especially without Cooper Kupp. It's just a bunch of underneath stuff for those guys. I mean, especially now if Alaric Jackson is hurt, then the Rams are in a position where the pass protection is going to revert back to what it's been like without good linemen in the past, and that's really troubled their quarterbacks. I mean, Matthew Stafford's efficiency has been directly correlated with the pressure allowed in front of him. So, I mean, the Rams just have a low ceiling this year. I think they surprise people with the floor because I think Stafford's healthy again, so that raises the floor. But we saw it in the game against the 49ers. That ceiling is a little bit lower. And then the Seahawks, I mean, uninspiring through the first 3 weeks. Yeah, they win a couple games, but Carolina's not any good. I know the Lions are good, so that was a decent win on the road, but still wasn't a defensive powerhouse performance from Seattle. They're playing with Geno Smith and a mediocre defense at this point until proven otherwise, because that mediocre defense gave up a whole heck of a lot to the Rams the week before, and the Seahawks weren't able to do anything offensively against the Rams in the second half. So Seattle seems like a so-so team. They haven't shown any real tangible signs of improvement from last year. Arizona, I mean, they have a bottom feeding type of looking roster. They're playing above their heads right now. The 49ers are going to see them on Sunday. And LA, they've got a firm ceiling above their heads. So I don't think the NFC West is looking too great outside of the 49ers, who are Super Bowl favorites right now. I think the 49ers absolutely will take Arizona seriously. I mean, they just beat the Dallas Cowboys. If you can run the football in this league, you can create a lot of opportunities for yourself on any given Sunday, because you win the toughness battle, and then a lot kind of springs from that line of scrimmage. Now, it is not the 79 49ers number 17. That would be Steve DeBerg. It's not a Steve DeBerg jersey. That's true. Emmanuel Sanders did wear number 17 in a throwback jersey. No, the 49ers cannot extend Purdy at the end of this season. You can't extend anyone until they've played at least 3 years in the NFL. It's called 3 accrued seasons. Brock Purdy will have only accrued 2 seasons at the end of this one. Sunchild says that Oliver's the only defensive piece that worries him, although Isaiah Oliver has made huge plays in each of the last 2 weeks. Covering Darren Waller was no joke. I mean, Waller is a walking mismatch, and Isaiah Oliver was all over him on a key third down. And the week before, he obviously made the trio of great plays against the Rams. We are in 49ers Q&A mode. I talked about why Patrick Surtain almost certainly won't happen. The 49ers have been big-time buyers of the trade deadline in the past, so I understand people talking about potential opportunities for the 49ers, because you look at Jimmy Garoppolo in 2017, traded a second-round pick to New England for their quarterback. They were quiet only in 2018, but in 2019, third and fourth rounders over toward Denver for Emmanuel Sanders. That was an impact trade for the 49ers, fit within the locker room. Culture-wise, I mean, he just blocked his ass off as soon as he showed up. The 49ers had held on in that Super Bowl, we'd still be talking a lot more about that Emmanuel Sanders trade and the boost that it gave the 49ers in 2019 at a fairly significant cost. 2020, seventh-round pick swap kind of deal for Jordan Willis, who they developed into a firm contributor. I mean, he was a hero of the playoff game in the snow against Green Bay. 2021, late round trade, I think, was it a sixth rounder to Houston for Charles Omenihu, who they developed into a $10 million player. He signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. 2022, they sent a whole lot to Carolina for Christian McCaffrey. So with this kind of track record, and then you consider some of the offseason trades that the 49ers have conducted, especially for Trent Williams, that was a big deal. But with this kind of track record, we can't rule anything out. That's why I brought this up. That being said, I think that Denver likely views Patrick Surtain as untouchable. And untouchable would mean King's ransom. And then we just have to, 49ers are balancing long-term sustainability with short-term gain all the time. That's how they've put themselves in this great position with a good roster and $40+ million of cap space. They're trying to play both of these things. Well, if somebody is going to demand a King's ransom for Patrick Surtain, and that would be Denver, I don't know if the 49ers would be willing to compromise their 2024 draft plans. And this is the first time in a long time that they've had a first-round pick. And I think that first-round pick is going to have to go toward an offensive tackle. That's just how I'm reading the tea leaves of how this is all shaping up for the 49ers, with Trent Williams being 35 and with McKivitz not being under contract for all that long. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I wanted to share them again. I know the show's getting a little bit bigger. Got a little late-night Lombardi vibe here. Anthony Garcia asks, where don't the 49ers have depth? O-line? Well, yeah, I don't think any team really has great depth along the offensive line. And the problem is that there's a shortage of quality offensive linemen. If teams are struggling to field a quality starting five, then it's almost impossible for anybody to feel good offensive line depth. So the 49ers will spruce that up as much as they can. But again, if somebody has value, then they're either not going to be on the trade market to begin with, or if they're on the trade market, they're going to command a big price just due to supply and demand. And at a position like offensive line, if good quality offensive linemen are in low supply, then the demand is going to be very high and the price is going to be very high. And the 49ers are trying to build a sustainable product, which is why we can't chase around every single trade rumor. Doing a special show for Q&A to talk about Surtain because he's a particularly big name at an interesting spot. But my main thesis here is that this kind of stuff does not work all too easily because it's very rare to have an A-list trade materialize. Last year was very rare, right? Christian McCaffrey came to the 49ers. That's why I stayed up all night talking to you guys about that trade. We had a huge audience talking about the Christian McCaffrey trade. It was a big effing deal last year with Christian McCaffrey. This season, is there going to be another big name like that? Well, I know the 49ers have armed themselves with the option power to be able to go after somebody, either, Patrick Surtain, if that becomes available, or an offensive lineman. They do have that option power, but every option that you do pursue does come with an opportunity cost. And I think trading away a first-round pick, if it is a King's ransom kind of situation here, would mean the opportunity cost of being able to take a good offensive lineman in the 2024 draft. The Eagles have a really good offensive line. That helped them all the way to the Super Bowl last year. James still can't believe Christian McCaffrey's on the team. How can the 49ers contain Joshua Dobbs, Arizona quarterback, whose jersey is not even available in the Arizona team store? That was a funny social media post. Stop the run game. It all starts with stopping James Conner, who weighs 233 pounds, is one of the biggest bulls in the NFL. I mean, throwback, big, physical running back. He ran all over the Cowboys. The Cardinals had 222 yards at 7.2 per carry. If the Cardinals can run that effectively, any quarterback would be comfortable, right? The play action game off of that's going to be efficient for anybody. So you have to slow down the run. And if you do, then Joshua Dobbs is going to have a much tougher time going 17 of 21, which he did last year. How are the receivers going to look this weekend? Well, we'll see at practice tomorrow, see if Deebo Samuel has recovered from some of the soreness. I know Brandon Ayuk was back out of practice for the 49ers on Monday. So Deebo and Ayuk could both potentially be out if the 49ers don't deem that they're healthy enough, or they could both potentially be in. We'll get our first firmer hints on Wednesday. Yes, Budda Baker is on injured reserve. No Budda, no Kyler. Yes, you have to watch out for Josh Dobbs' running ability. There's a 44-yarder that he kept early in the Cowboys game that really set the tone of that contest. So you absolutely do have to watch that. They can't sign Patrick Surtain. They have to trade for him. And Denver would want to have to trade him. All right, let's not get those two confused, which is why I think it's highly unlikely. The skinny on Darrell Luter Jr. is that he can come off of his injury list next week. He's not eligible to come off this week. It'd have to be after the 49ers' fourth game of the season, which is coming up. Is Jair Brown not ready to play yet? Odom was the third safety when Huff was off the field. Yeah, I mean, they're going to go veteran this early in the season, especially. Remember, Talanoa Hufanga didn't really start cracking the lineup as a rookie until the stretch run. Still remember he had a big pass breakup against Minnesota at Levi Stadium in 2021. So, I mean, that's the kind of timeline I would expect for Jair Brown to be the third safety. I think this early in the season, new defensive coordinator, 49ers still dabbling in a lot of new stuff, a lot of new alignments, a lot of new communication. You're going to go with the veteran first, and that's George Odom, is a very reliable player. This has been my point that Denver would ask way too much. Here, let me put it back up on the screen. Denver likely views Patrick Surtain as untouchable. Untouchable means King's ransom. King's ransom would mean the 49ers would have to derail their long-term plans. We could follow and trace what the 49ers have done at every step of this building process, and everything has been geared toward long-term sustainability. Even the massive trade up to number 3 in 2021 was born out of the desire for long-term cap sustainability. The 49ers wanted a QB on a rookie deal. They've since said that. I mean, it's a lot of people were shocked because they were like, wait, the 49ers had to trade up for a specific player. They didn't. They traded up for a quarterback in general, and they picked the quarterback after they traded up, but they knew that quarterback would come on a cost-controlled rookie deal so that they could keep other star players as those star players came up for new contracts, such as Nick Bosa. So that's why Brock Purdy is a puzzle piece that solves a lot of the 49ers problems and makes a lot of their goals come true, is because he's not making a lot of money right now. It allows them to sign other big names while the cap continues to grow, and it keeps them sustainable in the long term. I don't think that giving up their first round pick in 2024, if that's what Patrick Surtain would cost, would allow the 49ers to stay sustainable moving forward. They're very dependent on that first round pick in 2024, I believe, for the tackle position. We'll see if I end up being right. All right, back to the Q&A. Do I think Brock Purdy will become a top 5 QB this year? That's a good question. If he keeps on playing the way he has been, anything is possible, just like Kevin Garnett said after they beat the Lakers in 2008. Because Brock Purdy currently leads the league in third down efficiency, which tells me a whole heck of a lot. He's made so many gutsy plays on third down. Just show that QB wherewithal, right? He is the real deal. Now the question is, how high can he take this? I think his ceiling is a lot higher than people give him credit for because he has an elite burst. He moves as quickly in the first 10 yards as Lamar Jackson. It's been measured. That's his 10-yard split. So a lot of people discount Purdy's ceiling because they don't understand what they're watching from an athleticism standpoint, but it's really damn good. The arm strength is good. And obviously the decision-making has been fire for Purdy so far this season. Nick Brockman asks, is Brock Purdy the next Joe Montana? Yes or yes? Hey, we got 6 subs until 46,000. Why don't we hop on in there? It's hard to believe that we're already at 46,000, considering the fact we started training camp at 40. We just hit 100,000 on Twitter. That's exciting, too. Mike Urtaza. That's good Mike right there. Purdy's the next Purdy. Yeah, let's get it up to 50,000. I love it. 49ers will likely have to pay Purdy if he continues playing like this. Not this coming off season, but the one after that, 2025. Thoughts on the Eagles-Niners game later this year, where it's back in Philly. It's too early to talk about that because we don't know what the injury report's going to be. And as we could already say right now, based on prior history, the injury report has a big deal, has a big impact on marquee games like 49ers Eagles. Both teams looking balanced right now. I don't think Philadelphia is firing offensively the way they were last year, not firing offensively the way the 49ers are, but the defense looks damn good. Jalen Carter looks like a really good football player on the inside, and the 49ers have also improved their interior. I mean, they've added Hargrave. The Eagles have subtracted Hargrave but added Carter. The 49ers have added a healthy Kinlaw. They've added a healthy Armstead. I think as far as the arms race goes, the 49ers are ahead of the Eagles, but you could see, some of a negation of what you added due to injury. And it's still going to be several weeks before early December when the 49ers do play the Eagles. Still over 2 months away, right? We've got all of October, all of November before that starts looming much larger. As Mike says, we don't even know who's going to be alive this Sunday. So we can't talk about 2+ months away from now. What kind of wine is that behind me? That's a bottle of Lombardi Pinot Noir. I could bring it over here at some point. I'm not going to do it right now. But yeah, Lombardi, Tony Lombardi makes some wine up in Sonoma County. Obviously, that last name should be familiar to you. They got just search it on Google. They got a good Pinot Noir. So I have it as decoration behind me. I guess it's great that you asked about it because you probably can't see it, especially with the shallow depth of field that we have going with this camera. How do you have 916 in your handle and not know that Eric Armstead, the 916 Sacramento native, isn't still on the 49ers? Come on. Smash the like button so the algorithm feeds the videos to new viewers. Let's go. That's a great point from Isaac. Kittle has his own wine, huh? I didn't know that. Learn something new every day from Mike. Mike was sending me a bunch of cool charts today. Maybe I could put those back up on the screen. I had those up earlier. Oh, yeah, they're ready to go. Here we go. Let's take a look at these. I have Pat Surtain's contract up. You guys want to look at that or no? Yeah, let's look at Pat Surtain's contract. See how inexpensive Pat Surtain would be from a cap standpoint. $940,000 this year, but the problem is he'd be very expensive from a draft capital standpoint. All right, let's take a look at defensive linemen around the NFL. This is where the good stuff is. X-axis is difficulty of their blocking assignments, double teams, triple teams, chips, all that good stuff. Y-axis is the quality of their pass rushing based on grade. So you want to be further up on this chart. Look where Nick Bosa is. And then look where Myles Garrett is. I mean, Myles Garrett is, if the season ended today, and I get it, the season's not 3 games long, Myles Garrett would be the defensive player of the year. He's been that good for the Cleveland Browns. Now, remember that the 49ers play the Browns after they play the Cowboys. So it goes Cardinals, Cowboys, Browns, who have head and shoulders, have had the best defense in the NFL so far. You could see that Myles Garrett is head and shoulders above all the other edge rushers. But Bosa is second in terms of performance. You also have Drake Jackson above average. You have, here's Cleveland Farrell above average. Got to zoom in on it. Dennis Gardeck, that's who the 49ers face, lighter outside linebacker in the 3-4 from Arizona this week. So Gardeck has been around where Cleveland Farrell has been. Everybody on the 49ers has been productive on the defensive line. That's the point with Nick Bosa way up at the top. What's really interesting here is that Drake Jackson has faced difficult situations and he's still been productive. I think that common sense, just people really assume that Drake Jackson has had it easy because everybody else is getting double teamed. But it turns out that the way that things are working schematically is that Drake Jackson has actually seen a lot of attention thrown his way. So now we could look at this same chart, but for defensive tackles. And you'll see Javon Hargrave way up here. And you'll see Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw over here. So Hargrave has been a top 5 defensive tackle, top 6. Top 5. Oh, top 4. We can say he's higher than Leonard Williams. Armstead and Kinlaw, they're more like top 15 guys so far, but they've had a harder job, at least according to this graph. They're further to the right. That the x-axis is difficulty, the y-axis is performance. Kevin Givens is right here. Has had an easier job than the other 49ers defensive tackles, but the performance has also been above average. The 49ers play a team that features Jeremiah Ledbetter, who, as you can tell, is not good. Arizona's down defensive linemen are not very good. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the 49ers this weekend. DJ Jones not looking that great either. He's below average. Larry Ogunjobi is the player that the 49ers faced against Pittsburgh in week 1. He worked a lot against Spencer Burford, and he gave Burford some trouble, but Ogunjobi is just about average. It's interesting just to see where some of these names are on the list. Mike thinks that right guard is a bigger issue than right tackle. What does everybody think? You could comment. I think, Colton McKivitz, people aren't talking about this enough. Colton McKivitz put up a clean sheet against the New York Giants. They're blitzing a historic amount of the time, 85% clean sheets for both tackles, Colton McKivitz and Trent Williams. The pressure was coming up the middle. Same thing with the Arizona Cardinals. Their interior offensive line is where they've struggled. They've been better run blocking than pass blocking. Their tackles have actually been pretty good. So look out for that in the inverse when the 49ers play the Cardinals this weekend. Mick says the right guard and right tackle are getting better. I definitely agree about right tackle. I think that Burford is also improving. I think a lot of what Burford does that's really impressive doesn't show up as much as the PFF score. I mean, he executes some really difficult second level blocks with athleticism and power. And I think those are so important to what the 49ers do in Shanahan's scheme that they like the progress he's making, but he's still giving up a little too much in pass protection. And I talk so much about the pass protection issues when I broke down Brock Purdy's game because so much of that heat was coming up the middle. The 49ers are going to need Burford to be quicker and more rigid up front in pass pro. Best food at Levi's. Well, the press box is awesome food, but I understand that's probably not what you want to hear. I did the whole, you could type in the Levi's Stadium food tour video. I did the food tour a couple weeks ago, and you can pick what you like out of that stuff. They give us some good like poke. They got, new age food at Levi's. It's not going to just be hot dogs and soggy burgers. It is nice food. The thing is that I usually just eat in the press box there. So I'm a bigger expert on food at Oracle Park or Chase Center than I am at Levi Stadium. Go for Broke always comes in with some good factoids. Chew on this while you think about the 70 points the Dolphins scored this past Sunday. Over the last 5 regular season games, the 49ers have scored more points than any other NFL team, 165. So if you do 165 divided by 5, well, yeah, the 49ers are averaging well over 30 points per game. This season, they're at exactly 30. They closed last season hot. I mean, it takes to put on consistent scoring performances like that. It takes good complementary football. It takes your defense giving the ball back to the offense. It takes the special teams not screwing it up. And of course, it takes the offense producing. And the 49ers have been playing complementary ball. Good to appreciate that. I like this comment. I'll tell you what, Jed is willing to make some moves. I've talked to Jed about this. Jed York is willing to make some moves 100%. He has the draft capital, they have the money set up. They're willing to make moves. The question is, will a move materialize at the right price? Right? They'll do their due diligence on anything and everything. And people shouldn't mock that anymore because John Lynch has been serious about actually executing splash moves. But for somebody like Patrick Surtain, the Broncos have to want to trade him. It takes 2 to tango, which is why a lot of speculation is really, really tiresome. It really does take 2 to tango. And then I just want everybody to remember that the 49ers have long-term plans that are baked in with what they're trying to do in the short term. And they're trying to stay sustainable in the long term, which means the draft is where they have to win. And they have won in the draft. But this next first round pick, there's going to be some pressure here because I do think that they need to address the offensive tackle position in particular for the next several seasons. Score predictions for Sunday. 24-17 Niners says 49ers all day. All right. I don't know what year the Pinot behind me is. I'm going to have to go check that out. I literally just showed up in the mail. And I flew in today. So I want it in the background, but I haven't had a chance to examine anything. Better question for my wife. She likes to whine. I just chewed a little bit of ice in case you're wondering what that was. So, yes, they have to sign Ayuk next year. You have to save some money in the long term for that. But remember, Brandon Ayuk's cap hit will probably go down in the short term next year since he won't be at that 5th-year option number. So, it's all it's like surfing a wave. They can kick some of these costs down the road if the salary cap keeps on increasing. That's what the 49ers are banking on. Talanoa Hufanga is going to be up for a contract extension as well. Michael says it's going to be 30-17. I'm guessing he's picking the 49ers to beat the Cardinals. Yeah, I don't think Denver is going to be giving up Surtain. That's my opinion. So we'll see how it plays out. 49ers all day says don't take the spread. I think it's like 49ers by 14, right? It's a lot of respect to the 49ers, maybe a little disrespect to the Arizona Cardinals coming off the win against Dallas. Now we got a lot of blowout predictions coming in, 30-6. Crazy. All right, I have more cool graphics for you. I know I showed this on the other show, but I know we have a few more people watching now a little bit later at night. Here's Brock Purdy and NFL quarterbacks. X-axis is early down performance, so first and second down. If you're better on first and second down, your dot is further to the right. Y-axis is late down performance, third and fourth down. So if you're better on third and fourth downs, your dot is further up. So you want to be further to the right and up. You want to be both of those things. You want to be where Brock Purdy is or where Tua Tagovailoa is. Tua's insane. But even better than Tua in terms of third down efficiency, the dot that's the highest on here is Brock Purdy's. Brock Purdy is the most efficient quarterback in the NFL on third downs so far. Brock Purdy also happens to be efficient on first and second downs. That's why his dot is better and better spot than Patrick Mahomes' dot, also near Josh Allen's. Purdy is playing excellent football for the 49ers, even better than he played before his injury last season. Can he keep this up? That's the big question. But the fact that this right here is the truth, Brock Purdy at number 1 on third downs, it's a great sign for the 49ers. Eric is pleased with Jake Moody. I mean, yeah, I would hope so. You guys had the best start for a kicker maybe ever. Justin Tucker, who, everybody exalts these days, deservedly so, he didn't have as good of a start as Jake Moody. Jake Moody he's the first kicker to make 3 field goals and 3 extra points in each of his first 3 games, and he hasn't missed. So he's been very, very solid. Yeah, Mike's got to change Trey Lance from his AVI at some point because Lance is on the Cowboys now. So he might make Moody his avatar there. The Dolphins are 49ers, Miami South. Yes and no. They have Mike McDaniel. They have an innovative scheme. They're good, but they don't have nearly as good of a defense as the 49ers. That's, I think, really important to point out. And 2, they're built different offensively. The Dolphins are all about pure speed. They're just trying to outrun everybody. Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert on the same team, right? The 49ers are more about zagging physically while the rest of the league is trying to zig with the speed. So I think that they're obviously, you could see the commonalities between the two teams and the coaching staffs, but I think the Dolphins are trying to win in a whole different way than the 49ers. And I think overall, the 49ers are the better team right now because they're more balanced. They actually play defense while the Miami Dolphins are right in the middle of the pack defensively. And for the 49ers and the Dolphins to square off in the Super Bowl this year, I think Miami's going to have to get significantly better defensively. Because we've seen so many teams start the season hot, and we see the media try to crown these September champions, right? They're like, oh, they have a great offense. Nobody can stop them. And then you see November, December, January roll around, and these offenses aren't quite as hot in the cold weather months, pun intended there, not quite as hot in those months. And I think injuries hurt over the course of the season, and they just generally face defenses who get better by virtue of adjustment over the course of the season. So to make it through the marathon of the season at peak efficiency, to be the best team you can possibly be over the marathon of an entire NFL season, you have to have an efficient offense and an efficient defense. You saw the Dolphins come into Levi Stadium in early December last year. They were firing on all cylinders offensively. They even hit one of their first plays, the Trent Sherfield, for a long touchdown, but they ended up losing. 49ers ended up working them because they were tougher. 49ers were more balanced. So don't buy the hype this early in the season of anybody that's one-dimensional, right? Like it doesn't make sense. There are tried and true contenders, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are the guys that are going to be good again. Somebody like Miami, they're still a step away, and they're going to have a chance to prove that maybe they've taken that next step against Buffalo this weekend. But until that defense gets a little bit better, I am not buying them as a Super Bowl favorite. Yes, the 49ers can definitely afford a new contract for Brandon Ayuk next year, provided they continue drafting well. That's how they stay. They're surfing a wave of the salary cap. Keep on drafting well. Make sure cost-controlled contracts are filling out that roster. And then Kyle Shanahan said, I want to pay one of these guys every year, meaning he wants to pay one of his draftees every single season. And so far, the 49ers doing a great job. 2020, they paid George Kittle. 2021, they paid Fred Warner. 2022, they paid Deebo Samuel. 2023, they paid Nick Bosa. They want to keep on doing this indefinitely. The 49ers love it. They feel the cap is rising every year, and so can the size of their A-list core. When else would the 49ers play besides 1 p.m.? It's an afternoon game. It's not prime time. They're playing the Cardinals, not a very hyped team. I don't see when else they would play. Niners and Eagles will be good, but too early to talk about that. You want me to explain the salary cap for the average Joe? Well, I don't know exactly what you want me to say, except, maybe I can show you my salary cap sheet to give you a little bit of a peripheral look at what we're dealing with. So here's my salary cap sheet. You can check this out in the chat section. I'm copying and pasting this and putting it into the chat section right now. All right, go ahead and check that out. It's up there. And I will explain the salary cap for you. So basically, every single season, that's actually not the one I want to send you guys. I'm going to send you guys a different one because I want to send you the one where you could also access 2023. But anyway, you could look at this for the time being. It doesn't matter to me. Every single season, you have a limited amount of space. That's what the salary cap is. You have to fit all of your contracts, which are seen up on the screen here, under that amount of space. So this is 2024. 49ers are going to have about 256 million of space. That's going to be adjusted and it's going to be tinkered with a little bit based on what the NFL sets, but we're estimating 256 million. By the time next season rolls around, the sum of the 49ers contracts with their cap hits for that year are going to have to be under 256 million. So that's when you start playing financial Tetris, right? You move some money around. You have to cut some players. You sign some players. You negotiate a contract because you have to fit under the cap. It's like a sink that's filling up with water. You can't let it overflow. So you let a little bit of water out of the bottom, or you slow down the faucet to make sure it doesn't overflow. So building a football team under the salary cap is challenging because you can't just put that sink on full surge and then clog the bottom, because you're going to overflow. You're going to be in cap hell. That's what happened to the Rams a couple years ago. So the salary cap just makes, kind of evens the playing field a little bit. But there are certain rules that allow you to move stuff around, work with the cap. And the biggest rule that allows you to do that is spending a lot of money on signing bonuses. Because any money that you spend on a signing bonus by rule stretches out over 5 years against the cap. So say that you paid a player a $50 million signing bonus. That's what the 49ers gave Nick Bosa. $50 million doesn't count against the salary cap this year, even though Nick Bosa gets $50 million in his bank account. Only $10 million per year for 5 years counts against the salary cap. So if you're willing to pay as a team owner big signing bonuses, you can stretch cap hits out over future years. Now, the salary cap is tied to league revenues. They set the salary cap based on how much money the league makes. So the league just signed a new TV deal. That's why you see all these games on Amazon. That's why you see the YouTube NFL Sunday ticket package. The league just signed these new media deals. So the league revenues are going up. The larger the league revenues get, the bigger the salary cap is, the more each team has to spend, right? So that's what the salary cap is. The 49ers are surfing the wave. They're trying to stay under the salary cap even while fielding a roster featuring a lot of high-paid players. Hopefully that answers your question. If you have any more questions, please toss them in there. Maybe I'll do a separate show. My wife's mom recommended that I do a series called Lessons with Lombardi, where I literally have 5 to 10 minute videos about different things like the 49ers salary cap, where I could sit down and explain it in lesson fashion, where I prepare for the lesson. I point out a few graphics. And if you think those would be useful, please type in that you want to see some Lessons with Lombardi in the comment section, and I'll start making those videos. But hopefully that helps answer your question. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. See, there we go. Michael loves Lessons with Lombardi. So it was a good idea. I'll let her know. I will let her know that it was a very good idea. If anybody else has thumbs up, give those thumbs up to Lessons with Lombardi, and we'll make sure we'll get some of those shows recorded. I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you. I'm here because I like to promote my writing work. And I think with that, I could develop. It's just like if I would go to the bar and talk to the 49ers, but this is a lot cheaper and a lot healthier. I could drink water. I don't have to drink beer. And I could go directly to the people to talk 49ers. Now, speaking about promoting some of my articles, I really appreciate your comment there. I would love if people checked out my landing page on The Athletic. And you could start reading about Javon Kinlaw, Javon Hargrave, all these guys. It's all good stuff. Thank you, though. I am live at 9:30. Yes. I never stop working. And I flew across country today. So I'm burning the midnight oil, so to speak. If it were Eastern time, then yes, I'd be burning the midnight oil. Maybe it is Eastern time in my head. I do teach a college class, yes. They have Anthony Brown is back. They let him go for a day. They just needed Trey Swilling up because they thought that Swilling would be more ready to play. Brown is coming off the Achilles injury last year. So just a roster maneuver for a day, but Anthony Brown is back in the fold for the 49ers. I predict they're going to re-sign Trey Swilling, who they released or waived to make room for Anthony Brown, but he cleared waivers. I think they're going to re-sign Trey Swilling before practice tomorrow. Well, the good news is the 49ers are a national brand. So I think there's always going to be interest talking about the 49ers. I would love to talk about the entire NFL more, but that entails still talking about the 49ers. So I don't think that we'll ever be in a world where I'm not talking 49ers football. I don't have a specific sports journalism degree. I have a broadcast journalism master's degree from Boston University. I think my focus was sports. I forgot what exactly the program title was, but it was a broadcast journalism degree. Won't be any Debo news until practice tomorrow. Anyway, I'm going to toss the link into the chat section. And we've gone 49 minutes. So that's about right. Time for me to go get some rest. I did fly cross country today, bump out a lot of content for you. I have a huge article coming tomorrow on professional football in Prague in the Czech Republic, coached by a 49ers fan. Really, really cool. And it's all tied into Jim Tomsula winning the German league. Jim Tomsula is the coach of the Rhine Fire in the German league. The NFL is going to play its first Europe game this weekend. So hopefully you can check out that article on Athletic. This is about the 49ers is up on the screen. I'm copying and pasting the link to this one, tossing it into the comment section. So hopefully you can sign up for $1 a month. You can sign up through this or stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to talk 49ers connections in Prague in the Czech Republic. So hopefully I can give you a new angle of coverage that you haven't yet seen. All right, everybody, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I am ready to go now. Everybody take care. I need some rest. Bye now.